The Exorcist wasn't just a horror movie. It was a psychological war zone dressed as cinema. It didn't scare audiences, it traumatized them. Behind those twisting heads and levitating beds was a production so cursed, even priests were called in to bless the set. A fire halted filming for 6 weeks. Actors suffered lifelong injuries. And the director? He tormented his cast with real slaps, gunfire, and icy hell. We're about to open the gates to 20 weird facts about The Exorcist. Secrets buried in dailies, hidden behind screams, and etched into the legacy of one of cinema's most controversial films. And stick around for the bonus fact, where we'll reveal a shocking detail about a real-life death tied to the film's most disturbing scene. Ready? Then buckle in. This isn't just a movie. It's a ritual. 1. The set burned down, except for Regan's room. It sounds like myth, but it's real. In 1972, just days into filming, a mysterious fire tore through the New York set of The Exorcist, destroying nearly everything. Except Regan's bedroom. Her demonic chamber was left untouched, as if something was protecting it. Director William Friedkin was rattled. He halted production for 6 weeks, and even brought in a priest to bless the entire set. Warner Brothers panicked. Insurers labeled the blaze an act of God, though some crew whispered it was something else entirely. Friedkin later said, "There were too many coincidences, too many accidents. I started to wonder if we were messing with things we shouldn't." Whether divine intervention or electrical mishap, one thing is certain. From the start, The Exorcist felt cursed. 2. Linda Blair wasn't the first choice to play Regan. Linda Blair made cinematic history as Regan, but she almost never got the role. Casting the possessed 12-year-old was the film's most agonizing decision. Director William Friedkin auditioned over 600 girls. One frontrunner was Denise Nickerson, best known as Violet Beauregard in Willy Wonka and The Chocolate Factory. But when her parents read the script's blasphemous language, they pulled her out immediately. Then came Linda Blair, a relatively unknown teen. She wasn't a trained actress. But when Friedkin asked her, "Do you know what the devil is?" she responded, "Sure. I've seen it in a movie." He was sold, not for her innocence, but for her matter-of-fact coldness. She was believable. Too believable, in fact, that people later thought she was actually possessed. The role made her a star, but it came with a terrifying price. 3. Real injuries. Real screams. When Regan thrashes violently on the bed during her possession, those screams from Ellen Burstyn? They're not acting. In one take, a harness yanks Burstyn so violently she flies backward, slamming her lower spine. The pain was real. The scream was real. She told Friedkin she was hurt, but he insisted on using the shot. The injury caused lifelong spinal damage. Burstyn would go on to say, "He wanted authenticity. I gave him a scream that came from actual agony." Linda Blair didn't fare much better. Her own harness snapped her back repeatedly. She developed scoliosis, which plagued her for years. Friedkin wanted realism, but the cost was physical and permanent. 4. Friedkin fired guns on set to get reactions. William Friedkin wasn't just directing, he was manipulating. To capture genuine fear, he took shocking measures. During intense scenes, Friedkin would fire a shotgun behind the camera without warning. He slapped actors across the face right before takes. He pushed a priest, Reverend William O'Malley, before filming his emotional breakdown. "I had to get real performances," Friedkin explained. "I needed them raw, stripped down, and scared." Actors were on edge. Crew members began to quit. What started as a film production started to feel like psychological warfare, and somehow It worked. That raw panic on screen? It was earned. 5. A real exorcism inspired the movie. The Exorcist wasn't pure fiction. It was rooted in a terrifying true story. In 1949, a 14-year-old boy in Maryland, referred to as Roland Doe, underwent a months-long Catholic exorcism. Witnesses claimed his bed shook, objects flew, and the boy spoke in tongues. The story was buried in church archives until journalist Peter Blatty stumbled upon it. Blatty adapted the incident into a novel, but he flipped the gender, aged the character down, and created Regan. The church still won't confirm many details, but leaked notes from the original priests describe levitation, claw marks, and unexplainable events. It wasn't just a screenplay, it was a case file. The demon face was an actor in face paint. The flashing white face that haunts nightmares? That's not a hallucination. That's Eileen Dietz, a trained actress in demonic makeup. Friedkin added her brief, subliminal shots during editing. You see her in kitchen flashes, dream sequences, and in the darkest corners of Regan's room. Audiences, though, they imagined her. But she's real. Dietz played the demon Pazuzu in its rawest form. Her scenes were so disturbing, many were cut by censors, only to be restored decades later. She wasn't credited. Her work was largely erased, but her face, it became the stuff of legend. 7. Jason Miller had a real crisis of faith. During filming, Jason Miller, who played Father Karras, wasn't just acting. He was unraveling. A former seminarian turned playwright, Miller was drawn to the role because of his own religious doubts, but filming pushed those doubts to the edge. After a particularly intense scene, Miller stormed off set, shaking. Friedkin recalls, he looked like he'd seen the devil. Miller began questioning his own beliefs. He isolated himself, drank heavily, and had nightmares. This wasn't just a role, he later admitted. It was a reckoning. What audiences saw wasn't just Father Karras's descent, it was Miller's own spiritual collapse. 8. The cold room was literally freezing. Those clouds of breath you see pouring from Regan and the priests during the exorcism? That wasn't movie magic. It was actual frozen air. To get the breath visible on camera, Friedkin had Regan's bedroom built inside a giant freezer. Temperatures dropped to -20 degrees Fahrenheit, causing cameras to seize up and crew members to suffer frostbite. Linda Blair, dressed in a thin nightgown, shivered uncontrollably between takes. Her tears in those scenes? Real. Her pain? Icy and immediate. The crew dubbed it Hell's Icebox. At one point, the cooling system failed, and the set turned into a foggy swamp, destroying lights and audio. Filming had to pause. The irony? To capture the fire of a demon, they created a refrigerated hell. 9. Max von Sydow's age had to be reversed. Max von Sydow played Father Merrin, the aging exorcist who battles the demon. But in 1973, von Sydow was only 44 and needed to look 75. Makeup artists spent 4 hours daily aging his skin, painting liver spots, and creating fine wrinkles. The illusion was so effective that most audiences assumed von Sydow was a veteran in his 70s. But there was a problem. In scenes shot weeks later, the makeup team forgot their original aging formula. Continuity broke. His face looked too young in several exorcism scenes, forcing reshoots and re-edits. Von Sydow later joked, "I played death before I ever played my own age." It wasn't age makeup. It was time manipulation in reverse. 10. The Cursed production had 9 deaths linked to it. Now pause and really take this one in. By the time The Exorcist premiered, 9 people involved in the production had died. actors, crew members, and even relatives. Jack McGowran, who played Burke Dennings, died shortly after filming Wrapped. Linda Blair's grandfather passed during production. A night watchman collapsed on set, and a special effects worker perished unexpectedly during post-production. Friedkin admitted that even he began feeling superstitious. "There were just too many coincidences," he said. The cast started carrying crucifixes. Warner Brothers brought in a Jesuit priest to bless the editing room. Fear gripped the crew like a cold hand. Was it a coincidence? Or did something darker attach itself to the film? If you're still watching with the lights off, you're braver than most. Go ahead and like and subscribe, because what's coming next will make you rethink every scream, every prayer, and every cut on that haunted set. Let's dive back in. 11. The voice of the demon came from a real-life alcoholic. That gravel-voiced, growling demon? That wasn't a man. It was Mercedes McCambridge, a respected actress known for her powerful voice. But to become Pazuzu, McCambridge went to terrifying extremes. A recovering alcoholic, she started drinking again just to distort her voice. She smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day. She swallowed raw eggs to create mucus buildup. And she demanded to be tied to a chair during recording sessions to replicate Regan's physical struggle. She said, "I had to become the demon, even if it meant hurting myself." Friedkin was stunned, but it worked. Her unholy vocals added a layer of realism no special effect could fake. She sacrificed sobriety and nearly her sanity to give the devil its voice. 12. Tubular Bells was a last-minute decision. The film's haunting main theme, Tubular Bells, wasn't even part of the original plan. Composer Lalo Schifrin had created a complex, atonal score, but Friedkin hated it. After a single test screening, he ripped it out. In a panic, he searched the Warner Brothers music library and stumbled upon a strange instrumental piece by a then-unknown composer named Mike Oldfield. He played Tubular Bells over the opening credits. Instant goosebumps. The track wasn't written for horror, but its cold, mechanical rhythm became synonymous with dread. The soundtrack hit the charts. Sales skyrocketed, and Oldfield's career exploded overnight. It wasn't composed for fear, but it became the heartbeat of evil. 13. The film premieres had vomiting and fainting. When The Exorcist debuted in 1973, theaters became emergency zones. Audiences vomited, screamed, and fainted. At the Broadhurst Theater in San Francisco, an ambulance had to be called every night for weeks. In Boston, a man punched through a wall trying to escape. In Los Angeles, pregnant women were warned not to attend. Warner Brothers leaned into it. They distributed barf bags. Some theaters had nurses on standby. Headlines blared, "Movie causes mass hysteria." Friedkin's response? If people aren't ready to confront evil, they shouldn't come. It wasn't a movie premiere, it was a national panic attack. 14. The Iraq opening scene was filmed during a real revolution. The film opens not in Georgetown, but in Mosul, Iraq, where Father Marin unearths the cursed Pazuzu artifact. But that location wasn't a set. It was real, active conflict territory. The cast and crew were escorted by armed guards through war-torn ruins. The call sheets warned of curfews. Cinematographer Owen Roisman had to use natural light only, since electricity was unreliable. Any day, the shoot could have been shut down by insurgents or military orders. They were filming the origins of evil, while surrounded by real danger. Friedkin later said, "It felt like we were being watched, not by locals, but by something much older." Reality and fiction blurred. the demon's home wasn't imagined. It was dug from actual soil. 15 Warner Brothers tried to bury the film before release. In early screenings, The Exorcist didn't just shock test audiences, it frightened executives. Warner Brothers considered canceling wide release, worried the film would be deemed blasphemous, unmarketable, and dangerous. The studio thought the Catholic backlash would tank the box office. They even discussed shelving it for overseas release only, but word of mouth was volcanic. Audience reactions, fainting, hysteria, even a reported miscarriage, hit headlines. Lines wrapped around blocks. Warner Brothers reversed course fast, pouring millions into promotion. The film went on to earn over $400 million worldwide, becoming one of the most profitable horror films of all time. They tried to bury it, but The Exorcist became a theatrical resurrection. 16. The spider walk scene was cut, then resurrected. One of the most disturbing moments in The Exorcist isn't in the original release. The infamous spider walk, where Regan contorts backwards down the stairs with blood dripping from her mouth, was cut by Friedkin just before final editing. He felt it was too surreal, and the wire work looked unconvincing. Fans only heard rumors of the scene for decades. Then, in 2000, the version you've never seen was released, and the spider walk returned. With enhanced effects and chilling music, the scene shocked a new generation. Sometimes, the most terrifying moments aren't deleted. They're waiting in the dark, ready to crawl back. 17th. Ellen Burstyn fought the studio over Linda Blair's safety. As the set grew colder and the stunts riskier, Ellen Burstyn took a stand. She noticed Linda Blair, just 13 years old, was being physically pushed far beyond limits. Harness yanks, extended exposure to freezing air, hours of screaming dialogue. Burstyn confronted producers, demanding better treatment for the young actress. "She's not a stunt double," she warned. "She's a child." But Friedkin pushed back. He wanted realism. Blair, wanting to impress, kept saying yes, until she fractured her spine during a bed-thrashing take. Her cries of, "It hurts," in the film were not scripted. Behind the terror was a child in real pain, and a co-star fighting to protect her. 18. Religious leaders tried to get the film banned. As soon as The Exorcist hit theaters, religious authorities erupted. Catholic and Protestant groups protested outside cinemas, calling the film spiritually dangerous, an invitation to demonic possession, and morally corrosive. Some dioceses threatened to excommunicate parishioners who saw it. The MPAA gave it an R rating, but many demanded an X. Friedkin refused to cut scenes for a PG rating, even if it meant box office suicide. And yet, some priests secretly praised the film. They said it portrayed evil truthfully, even heroically. One Jesuit priest called it the most pro-faith movie ever made. Not a rejection of religion, but a battle cry for belief. 19. William Peter Blatty had to fight for the ending. Author and screenwriter William Peter Blatty wanted The Exorcist to end on a hopeful note, with Father Dyer and Lieutenant Kinderman walking off, hinting at friendship and spiritual renewal. But Friedkin hated it. He wanted a cold, abrupt ending, no comfort, no light, just the aftermath. The two men argued for days, nearly splitting. In the end, Blatty won. The final cut included the quiet moment of human connection, a nod that good had not been entirely extinguished. It wasn't about scaring audiences one last time. It was about giving them something to hold on to in the dark. 20. The studio hid a lawsuit over Linda Blair's trauma. After filming ended, Linda Blair spiraled. She was bombarded with hate mail from religious extremists. Some accused her of glorifying the devil. Others warned she'd be possessed in real life. She developed PTSD, nightmares, and anxiety. At one point, she was placed under security protection. But what few know is this. Blair's family sued the studio privately, claiming negligence and trauma due to the dangerous filming conditions and lack of aftercare. The case was settled out of court and sealed. To this day, Blair rarely speaks about the film without discomfort. It made her a star, but it also marked her for life. Bonus fact: a real serial killer appears on screen. This is the one detail even hardcore fans often miss. Paul Bateson, the radiology technician who appears during Regan's horrifying angiography scene, was later convicted of murder and suspected of being a serial killer. In 1979, Bateson was arrested for killing a film critic in New York. Police then linked him to a series of grisly murders in the gay community, bodies dismembered and dumped in the Hudson River. Bateson never confessed to those crimes, but director William Friedkin was so disturbed he based his later film Cruising on the case. That quiet man in the hospital scene? He may have been a real monster hiding in plain sight. The Exorcist was never just a horror movie. It was a crucible of belief, of fear, of the body and the soul. Behind every scream was a real consequence. Behind every special effect, a real bruise, a real scar. And yet, through all the darkness, it proved something terrifying and beautiful. That when cinema stares into the abyss, sometimes the abyss stares back. If you found these secrets as chilling as we did, like and subscribe, because we're just getting started with the twisted truths behind Hollywood's most haunting films. Until next time, keep the lights on, and whatever you do, don't answer the voice in the dark.